All right, nerds, we're back. It is day 24 of the Fermented Friends Advent Calendar, and I brought guests. We have Curtis and his cats, and we have Derek in the dark, both members of the Fermented Nerds Advent Calendar. And today, and I think we're going to get more guests as we go, so we're going to see. We're going to see what happens. And Callie here, she's watched every single video.
Yay, Callie.
And I didn't miss a single one. Thank God I was only doing one. Hi, Ethan. Bye, Ethan. Today, from Medicine Hat Brewing, their Taproom Classic, they only bring it out at Christmas. Their Black Forest Porter. And we have more guests. Justin. Just in time.
Sir. How are we?
We're just talking about today's beer, if you haven't had it yet.
I have not, so I'm excited to give that a go.
Yeah. I have a branded glass, which is very exciting.
There you go.
I stole it from Dylan's. I had an Annex one as well. So this is day 24. This is my pick. This fine afternoon. I figured, why not? Limited run. Got it right when it came out. It seemed to make sense. So while we're pouring, why don't you tell us what you guys picked? Like, what were your beers this calendar? Or do you remember? We'll start with Justin.
Sure. So mine was that black tea lemon one, Earl Grey one that was 2 days ago.
Yeah.
And the other one was, I don't remember, but I know that it was a grizzly bear on the tin can.
Oh, the Whistler Honey Lager, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I took a photo of it, so I have to remember what it is. But that was the one I picked. Both of them, really, that one was solely picked on the look of it because I thought the can was quite something. And then the other one was the Earl Grey tea. I grew up on tea, so I thought, well, sure, let's see how this goes. So that was my choice there.
What about you, Curtis?
I supported as local as I could get. Living in Fort McLeod, I got the Stronghold Spirit Bear like the day after it was canned.
Yeah.
And I did the analog cream ale because it was some 8-bit gaming.
That was fun. And it's weird. We talked about that one on the show, but it's pre-prohibition style brewing. So it's a ale made like a lager. It was really cool. Yeah. But it's some weird science behind it. That's how beers were made in the 1800s.
Okay.
I mean, it's really cool. And then Coach DT, Derek Taylor.
So unfortunately, or fortunately, I guess, when I chose my two, I'm very scientific in how I selected them. I walked into the beer cooler, and the first two beers that I had not had were the first that I came across were the two that I picked up. So there was the blueberry vanilla Babe one, that most of us had, and of course, I found out that I was trying to poison our host here, Wally, because of course he's allergic to blueberries. So he got an audible at the last moment and got a cherry. What was that? A cherry
black lager? Cherry lager or something. That
was not a big fan of it, apparently.
No.
Then the other one was the Legends, and I think that was a lager. Or was that a Pilsner?
The Legends Pale Ale, I think.
Oh yeah, that's right. It was Pale Ale.
Yeah.
So had been some time. So.
Okay, yeah, and then I had this one that we're drinking today, and also the Castlevania Nipa one. That was really fun. I think you were on that show, weren't you, Justin?
Yeah, that was when we had the guy didn't dial in for the call, but he was in the chat, as I recall.
And then we actually had the second one from Analog. Can't remember which one it was. He was in for that one too, as well. Mm-hmm. So I had Kyle and Dave on for that. So today's beer, however, is Christmassy. Look at that. Black. Just black head. Little tiny tinge of cherry red, brownish head. But it's like black as night, this beer. Holy cow.
I like it.
It smells like cherry. It smells like Black Forest cake, which is a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If you guys haven't had this one, it is, for a viewing audience, a 6.0%. So there you go. Yeah, Taproom Classics. I think we're all drinking it.
Yep.
Yeah.
They've brought this out a couple times now. They just bring it at this time. So they combine their brick and mortar porter with cherry ale or some elements from that to create this. So it's kind of a neat little beer, and of course, pretty local, only like 2 hours away. Let's all drink, and then we'll talk to our fine viewers about our experiences with the calendar, beers you've liked, beers you haven't liked, styles maybe you kind of caught on to.
This is a really nice, like, and it sounds odd, obviously, but the dessert beer. Do you know what I mean? Like, this feels like a great, like, last beer of the night. You know, like you've had something else. Maybe it's 10 o'clock. You're winding down. I'll have another can. That's the one you want to finish off with. It's got a nice finish to it. And again, that being a little bit of a heavy porter, right? Kind of finish off your night. Or
it's a really good Christmas morning beer, but
which sure look at
Yeah, it's a beer. It's good anytime. I'm actually surprised at how clean the aftertaste is.
It's very coffee, a lot of cherry.
Yeah, but it's still a lot cleaner than I expected.
I was expecting heavier, but that's damn smooth. Yeah.
Might be the ale, because they add. Well, I mean, they're both types of ales, but maybe it just waters it down, creams it, like brings it down a little bit. It tastes a little bit. You can tell the brick and mortar porter because porters often taste ashy. If that makes sense. But I mean, you also got bitter chocolate. You got a little bit of like baking sherry. It's good. It's really good. Like you said, this could also be a great nightcap.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same mouthfeel. I mean, Justin would know better having lived over there. Similar mouthfeel to like Guinness.
Yeah, I mean, I
Canadian Guinness, I guess.
Yeah, Canadian Guinness. I think Guinness from the brew room, right directly in Ireland, definitely has a bit of a thicker kind of finish to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with this at all.
Paul is watching. He's a fermented nerd, but a non-drinker, so he says hi. There we go. I don't know how many viewers we'll have this afternoon, but we'll.
It's all right.
It is what it is. Any reason to drink, man?
Often we have it'll fluctuate throughout the show. As people realize the show's on, we'll get more and more. Yep. And then all of a sudden, people start chatting 45 minutes into the show and ask questions. So again, you could tell it's like, I've noticed this, and we noticed this when we did, what was the other show you're on for the very, were you on with Ribstone Creek?
Ribstone Creek.
Talking about the silver can with a wrap.
Yeah.
Right? Same thing here. Cost cutting. You're not painting the can. You're just printing the label and putting on some tin. So that's good. And like he said, it was very much for cost cutting measures. So that's cool. Good to see. Medicine Hat Brewing, the one thing I will not give them credit for it normally is their branding. Their labeling is kind of awful usually. But when they do limited cans, they're always really cool. Why can't all their beers be this inventive instead of this is actually the brick and mortar porter. Just kind of not much to it.
Yeah, and again, silver can wrap on that. Hey,
yeah.
The thing that I find very interesting about this one, and maybe Wally, maybe you can provide us some more information. This is not something I commonly see on cans. Is who the actual brewmaster is. Brewmaster Mitch.
Interesting.
I thought that's very interesting. That's not something we typically see on a can, do we?
No, not at all. So their Coffee Dunkel was also limited edition. Again, good label. Great label. Really cool.
Does he mention the brewmaster there?
Yeah, it does actually. That's what I wanted to look at.
Okay, yeah, so that's part of their branding then.
Oh, yeah, and then even on their mainline can, they have it. So I've never seen that before. It's really cool. This one, if you haven't had it, is absolutely delicious. If you like coffee, Derek, you would love this one.
I think I've had it. I'd have to look. I believe I have.
Super coffee. Their limited edition, definitely, their small batch stuff is where their strength is. Anybody who's had Medicine Hat beer, they know that it's generally your intro porter, their Industrial Lab IPA is just a very, very, very basic IPA.
Yeah, their microbrew scene was really kicked up there.
It's
over the last 5 years, isn't it?
Yeah.
3 breweries there now.
Yeah, who's there now? It's
Medicine Hat, Hell's Basement, and then Travois, which is kind of downtown.
Right.
Travois, they each have found their niche a little bit. Medicine Hat is getting a guy to go from Big Rock or even Pilsner up to like craft beer, right? So it's good stepping stone beer.
Mm-hmm.
Hell's Basement tends to go a bit. They make all their standard normal beers, but they'll lean into things. So they were doing their milkshake beers for a while.
Mm-hmm.
They'll do like more way out in the tangents, and then Travois is like very traditional brewers. They make like Belgian ales and like British style IPAs, right? So more traditional European style brewing. But I think they've started doing a few new things too. So they've each found their niche kind of within the community.
Yeah.
And their Hell's Basements and Medicine Hat are pretty close. Travois, like downtown, it's a little brew pub, good food and stuff. So
yeah, I was there. I was actually in the Hat in August. I went to the Yard, which is they've taken a space, and obviously during the summer, maybe fall, between two buildings downtown, and they've cleared it out. And they put benches in there and like strung some lights, and it's all like local. It's an outside tap room essentially.
Oh, wow.
And they bring in like a person with a guitar, and they put a mic up, and then they're serving like, you want food? Sure, look it. But it's literally a bag of Ruffles chips and dip that you're buying, and it's just like absolutely fantastic. It's kind of right down to the core. Really cool concept. Just called the Yard.
Are they like serve you beer out of like solo cups and stuff?
No, they'll bring proper cans, and you go from there. But they're only supporting kind of the local premise that way.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but then they're only open 3 months a year, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like especially Medicine Hat, it gets from brutally hot to brutally cold pretty fast.
Yeah.
Michelle is glad she caught the final show live. I'm glad you did too. That's good. She's been on a few here and there. I've seen her out and about. We have a few viewers. Okay, so let's talk calendar. We've talked about what you've had, what you brought to the calendar.
Mm-hmm.
What have you gotten from the calendar? Let's talk about like styles of beers you've discovered or breweries you've discovered that you kind of surprised you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. One of the ones that surprised me was the Japanese ale.
Yeah,
that one. That one I didn't really know what to expect coming into it, and I'll say it very quickly came up into my top 5 favorites as I went through it, and it's tough to, and I don't really know what the style of it is that you'd call, right? Whether it's a pale ale or how it kind of really.
Yeah, that was the Okami Kasu from Old Beautiful in Calgary.
Yeah.
So it's just an ale.
Yeah.
So it's like, quick boiled. The ales are pretty fast to make. And then they used spent rice from sake production and put it into the mash. So that kind of gave it a bit of that that booze flavor. I love that one.
Yeah.
Any others particular that stood out for you? Because for me, it was like, I'll just go to me next and then we'll go to Curtis and Derek. It was beers. I learned that to ignore my beer prejudices. So I'm like, the rice beer. Iceberg lager. Like, I was so unexcited about the beers that I enjoyed the most. Right? So the Okami Kasu is on my list too. That was the beer that shocked me the most because I thought it was going to taste bad.
Yeah.
Like a rice beer, right? Rice beer is Kokanee or Coors Light. Like they had rice as an adjunct, so it was cheaper to make. The Iceberg Lager, same thing. Oh, it's a lager. How good could it be? Right? It's just a lager. All lager is the same. Well, I was completely dead wrong on that one. The other one is a good authority by Annex because it's just a golden ale, and golden ales are generally kind of boring, but they use the hops perfectly. I thought for that one. I think it was Mosaic hops, so I loved that one. So if I got anything, it's ignore my prejudice, like get over preconceived notions. Curtis.
Yeah, much.
And I know you've been drinking a couple of calendars. So.
Yeah, as per usual. This year I only had 2. It's kind of mixing them up a lot. But actually, a big surprise was that Iceberg lager because it was like, to me, there wasn't much taste, but it was just crisp and clean.
Yeah.
You would think you'd get a Kokanee Budweiser type taste, but if Kokanee tasted like that, I might drink it.
Yeah. It was a patio crusher. I could drink
for sure.
a million
gee.
of it.
I get sloshed in the summer on that. Yeah, on a patio,
It
absolutely.
was a nice drink. Unfortunately, I did find it a bit bland, but it was a nice drink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know everybody here seems to be really high on it, and it was a good enough lager. Kind of was what I expected, but I found it a little bland.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's
I figured
what
most.
I expected malt, right? I expected cheap malty adjunct kind of beer, and it just definitely was not that. And I think that's why, again, it also it'd be something I'd like to revisit to see, was it actually that good, or did I expect something really bad?
I definitely expected something really bad.
Right, so.
Fair enough.
So it just beat expectations now stacked up. Without expectations, who knows?
And I also wonder if it's also the placement of it in the beer calendar and the sequencing of everything else that you have, where it's also that changes. Like you've had some porters, you've had some sours, or you've had some different things, and all of a sudden this comes out, and you're like, oh, right. So whether the patterning of it kind of mattered as well.
Yeah, I kind of tried to curate so there'd be some palate cleansers essentially in the middle, right? Something just to like. Especially between like an IP and a porter, right? You don't want to go from one to another. I mean, it's the next day. So it's not like it's fresh on your palate, but it's just good to have a little palate cleanser, like especially in the middle of the week on a Tuesday or Wednesday. Do you really want a giant beer, right?
Yeah.
Now, Derek, you're mostly an IPA guy.
Yeah. So that's the nice thing about these calendars, right? Is they force you out of your comfort zone, which is nice, right? Because then you start getting into something like the Spirit Bear one, which not to say I wouldn't necessarily pick it up, but yeah, I'd probably reach for an IPA before I would reach for that, for instance. Yeah. And it's just nice to get to enjoy kind of the complexity in some of the beers that you don't like. You do still get complex IPAs, but again, it's nice to get away from that and go into something else. Unfortunately, that probably shows that bit of that palate bias and that you want a little bit more flavor. So, again, when you look at things like lagers, I tend to have low expectations of them. Usually they meet them, but overall though, I think looking at this calendar, geez, there was a lot of beer there that I'd never had before. So it was enjoyable. So I appreciate what everybody brought to the table.
People did stick away from IPAs. So there was a Castlevania NEPA that I picked. There was a White Raven.
Yeah.
And Honest Paul, and was that it? I guess the Legends kind of was IPA-ish. A pale ale, right? But where I think in previous calendars we've been, especially in the earlier years, there'd be a ton of IPAs.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
I mean, that's when we were kind of into it. And Curtis is not an IPA guy. Right?
No,
you're probably happy with this one.
Yeah, no, this one is great. Every year I expect quite a few IPAs, but
now Kyle is in chat, and he should come in the room. So we'll see if he does or not. I sent him the link, but he's with his family, so I understand it. He says he likes this kind of stout. Amanda, not so much. It's a cherry that gets her. Yeah, if you don't like cherry, because like I said, it's very candied, menthol, cough droppy kind of cherry, or like baking cherry. Not like your typical richness that you get in the fruit.
Yeah.
So I get that. It's not, this flavor is not for everybody. I think it's great. It's actually, as it warms up, it gets better and better.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say that too. So earlier I made the comment that I thought it kind of finished pretty clean, and it still does. And I think it's the cherry that kind of helps finish it clean. Mm-hmm. But then you get that complexity kind of after, right? Just kind of blends out afterwards, right? And that's when you really start to get that flavor. I agree. Yeah. Might have been too cold when I poured mine first. Had the first couple of mouthfuls.
Yeah, I've been trying to bring some of them out. Some of the Sneaky Weasel and a few, I just took them right out of the fridge before the show because I knew they'd have to be cold to get through them. So, again, preconceived notions, right?
That's one thing I have to actually learn better. Oh, sorry, Justin. I think I spoke over you there.
No, it's okay. I was mentioning I'd forgotten that we were kind of getting into this one today and hadn't put it in the fridge till about an hour and a half ago, so it was barely cold when I pulled it out. Yeah. So it was still a little bit warm.
Dark beers are like red wines. You don't have to keep it cold. You just put them in, get them chilled, because you're going to drink them between like 4 and 12 degrees, right? Depending on what they are.
Mhm.
So,
That's one I was trying to say. That's one thing that I have to learn is the temperatures to drink the different beer. I haven't.
Yeah.
Everything goes in the beer fridge. It's kept nice and cold. Comes out, it's cold, right?
yeah. Basically, the more complex the beer, you want to bring it out a little like early, just to let it warm up and get some of those flavors, right? And I think basically you can tell by the type of glass if you want it cold or not. If it has a stem, that means you shouldn't probably be touching it, right? Kind of the red wine, white wine thing. You're drinking white wine in stem glasses for a reason.
Yeah.
Right. Where a red wine, you can, it can warm up in your hand, right? Or a hard liquor like cognac and stuff is all right, right? You put the ice cube in, but you're still holding it with the cup of your hand. So if you're ever wondering how to drink beer or what temperature, just compare it to wine. The darker the beer or the more complex the beer, generally the more complex, the little warmer you want it out. Kyle says the Sneaky Weasel is his least favorite. The Japanese one from Old Beautiful, the Okami Kasu, likely his favorite, or the King's English. Interesting.
Oh, the King's English. Yeah.
That was annexed, the black tea lemon.
Yep.
I'm still like torn on that one. I'm still arguing with myself whether I liked it or not. Because sometimes in some parts I did and some parts I never. It was weird. Did I get more lemon or more tea in that drink, right? So I'm not really a tea drinker. And I think that affects me when I drink beer like that.
Mhm.
I don't understand that flavor. That's not a profile I'm used to.
Yeah.
So in this case, like the Earl Grey tea, I just not being a tea drinker. I guess it'd be like people who don't like strong coffee. It's like, oh man, I don't know about this, right? So maybe you said you're a lifelong tea drinker. Why don't you tell us what you thought? Like the tea part of it. Did it stand out? Was it something good?
Myself?
Yeah.
So here's the honest truth, lads. I'm about 3 behind. I haven't gotten there yet. I fell off track.
No.
So I had to jump around.
Consolation, I haven't hit that one yet either. That one,
yeah. So, but I loved watching your reaction to it. So I think I'm on 21 right now.
Okay.
So I have a couple to 22, 23, and 24. So I have 3 cans are sitting in my cooler, and obviously finishing off this one to get onto it. But just as a person who grew up drinking Earl Grey tea, I was like, oh well, sure. Look at this. This could land nicely. So once I do it, I'll post a little quick review of it on the site.
My Callie has been doing, who's in chat right now, has been doing an Advent tea calendar. Or a tea advent calendar, rather.
Make them try it right now.
Make him try it right now.
All right, Callie, I hear you. I'm going to go grab the can right now. We'll have a live reaction, all right?
Okay.
Give me a second. I'll mute my cam just so you don't hear everything else I'm doing right now, all right? Give me a second.
I could go get mine too.
Sure, look at what he's doing now.
All right. I'll be right back.
I just finished mine before we started, so.
What's that?
I just finished the lemon tea one right before we started here, so.
So what did you think then?
I am not a tea drinker whatsoever. My wife Kat is, and I had a roommate who was big into tea. I could never find a single tea that I liked. I didn't mind it because it wasn't tea.
Yeah. So what it reminded me of is like Old Georgia porch iced tea.
Actually,
right?
Yeah, I got iced tea out of it, but unsweetened iced tea with a little beer flavor. So
yeah, that's what it was, unsweetened iced tea, and that's what I got. And again, I'm not a big fan of unsweetened iced tea, so maybe it's just something that's just not. It's also like the complex. Sometimes even in beer, even though I drink a lot of beer and drink different things, it's even the complexity I don't get. I don't understand like tea layers and different herbs in it and different elements of tea, candy. Like when I smell calories, they always smell good. And I'm like, should I try some of these? I don't know, right?
I was the same. Tea always smells good, so I have a sip and I'm like, nope, still don't like it.
Yeah.
But in beer form, I thought it was all right. I polished it off pretty quickly, actually. So
good. So, Jen, while you were gone, we were talking about Curtis had just tried this tea, just tried that beer. So it was good to. We're gonna have like 3 more or less live reactions. What I said it tastes like is unsweetened iced tea, like Old South Georgia unsweetened iced tea. If you've ever had anything like that, that's what it reminded me of.
All right, Callie. I don't know if that was
Smells
considered
like it's
cyberbullying, by the way. Turd, go do it. So there we go. There's the can. Sure luck it. We'll crack that open.
Yes, Kelly, come on down if you want.
I enjoy the King's
Definitely
English.
get that lemon the way.
Oh, wow. Wow. Yeah.
And it's got that bitterness from the black tea too.
Yes,
That's a nice drink. Jeez, that is nice.
Right now, I am excited by that. Between that smell of the Earl Grey tea and that lemon, I am already on board.
That is that nice.
I'm just an unrefined cowboy from
Oh,
small town Alberta, and I just never drank tea. My parents never drank tea. Nobody I knew drank tea.
really? Oh, my mom! Literally, that was all I drank growing up. I actually so interesting. I'm the flip side of it. Well, I didn't drink coffee till I was 15, and even like my first cup. Even now, at my age of, let's just say, near 40, still do not really care much for coffee. I'll have a little bit of it. All right, so let's top that up a bit more.
Grasping hand.
All right. I'm not a bully. I'm a cheerleader. Nice, Callie. I appreciate that. Thank you.
This smell. There's a nice smell to
It's a beautiful smell. Yeah, let's give that a go.
Michelle's saying she enjoyed it as well. First coffee or tea, but liked it in the beer. Yeah, and likes unsweetened iced tea.
it.
Wow.
Oh, it's nice. It
Yeah,
is nice drink.
That is
Jeez, that's
very
a
nice. I think you're right though, Wally. Like it is very much a. I think you used an analogy of a iced tea, right? Like that kind of
unsweetened, like
unsweetened
traditional
iced tea.
unsweetened
Yeah,
iced tea.
yeah, very much so. The lemon kind of cuts the dark tea part of it though, like the black tea.
But you can definitely pick it up in there though. That black tea.
Oh yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's
that
in there,
you
and
know,
it's strong.
yeah. Speaking of just like crushing beers in the summer, do you know what I mean? Like that is definitely like, and it doesn't have a strong beer taste, right? Really doesn't. Actually, I might save some of that for my wife who doesn't like beer, and ask her if she wants to give that a bit of a go because that is real nice.
Callie really enjoyed it, and she really enjoys tea. She
Mhm.
drank the rest of mine.
Yeah,
Because it wasn't bad. Don't get me wrong. So you can dislike a beer and know it's still well made.
Oh, for sure.
Beer.
Yeah.
But I just couldn't get over that, like that tea bag thing, that the tea bitterness.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I just that was what I couldn't escape in that.
Yeah.
But again, as we were saying when you're off screen, some of the complexities of tea I don't understand. I just because it'll have tea has flavors, I'm sure, like beer would, with layers of different ingredients, right? And how long you're going to steep it for and at what temperature. Definitely a lot more complicated than I understand. And I think that's where the beer kind of got me. I'm like, that's why I said I'm kind of torn on it. I'm going to try another one. If I can find it in singles, I'm going to get another one.
Yeah.
Because I'd be curious to, I think I'd want to drink it a bit colder because you guys tore it right out of the fridge and dunked in and loved it.
Well, yeah. That's I like that actually.
Mine was really cold, so
No.
it's fabulous. Oh wow!
So I did it on the one episode of Stranger Danger we've done so far with Jonathan, who's also in the calendar. We drank a Collective Arts beer with tea in it, and it had bergamot in it, which is like the key ingredient of Earl Grey. And I loved that beer.
Okay.
I absolutely loved it. Do I have it on my shelf back here?
I gotta get rid of two. I'm double fisted.
I know. It's the exact same thing. I was like, all right, well, I guess that's what you're doing.
And you don't get much different than that.
No.
I don't see the can, unfortunately.
Oh my!
Show you because this was another tea beer, like a tea-based beer. It's weird that I just can't see it on my shelf anywhere. It wasn't Hazy State. Well, that's unfortunate that I can't find it. So if I do find it, I'll just message you guys and let you know what beer it was. It was from Collective Arts. It was an Earl Grey ale, and it was delicious. I loved it. And Jonathan didn't like it. He liked this one a lot more. So definitely got to revisit beers. Callie earlier in chat said your favorite beer and your least favorite beer. So like, what are your, say, top 3 beer? I'll start. For me right now, it's the Stronghold beer, the Imperial IPA from, or not Imperial Ale from Ribstone Creek.
Oh, yeah.
And then probably the Castlevania NEPA. That might be favoritism, but I really, really enjoyed that beer a lot. Those Good Authority also might be my third favorite. Again, you'd almost have to revisit them later, because again, that Golden Authority was delicious. I thought, absolutely delicious. But I like IPA so much that I put that Analog one way up there. And again, it might have been the experience having the brewer in the chat and a very hearty discussion about the beer. So sometimes the experience overrides the flavor, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So let's, Derek, how about you?
Well, I think there's again, you talk about the fact tend to be an IPA drinker, so there's some tendencies there, right? So again, the Castlevania was nice. I have let's say an emotional attachment to White Raven. I really enjoy that. So, but to be honest, these two beer right now that we're just drinking right now, quite a contrast with them, quite complex, both of them. They are ones that you'd have to revisit. I'm quite surprised by this black tea lemon. It is a really good drink. Good. Nice beer. It's probably easier for me to pick on the ones I didn't like. Because there were a fair number of good beer in the calendar for sure.
Yeah. So which ones didn't you like then? Which were your least favorite?
Well, one that I contributed, the blueberry vanilla. I wasn't a big fan of that one. The Sneaky Weasel. I'd had it before. Not really a big fan of it. And this might get me. I might get. Some people might raise their eyebrow about this. The iceberg one, unfortunately, like I said, it was a little too watery for me.
Okay, yeah, I get that.
It was a little too light.
Yeah. Again, I think
something.
Yeah,
something more to it.
We've had discussion where expectations and reality, right? So I expected it just to be garbage, and lo and behold, I thought it was it wasn't tasty. It was just a nice drinking experience. Just a nice.
The problem might have been that I heard you guys talking about it, so my expectations were quite raised. I was thinking, oh, geez, yeah, this sounds like it's going to be fabulous. And then I kind of was like, well, tastes a lot like Lethbridge tap water. No, just joking. That was terrible. I'm sorry. No, it was better than that, but
That's really funny. Okay, Curtis, 3 favorites so far. I know it's some year behind, so I get that, but.
Oh, like I said, I'm almost caught up, but like I said, it's the problem of having 2 of them going at once, and I was dumb and did not save cans.
Okay.
To know as I go, but
so you're pulling out your Untapped.
I'm not even on Untapped.
Oh dear. Well, there
I
you
just
go.
drink. Probably near the bottom is definitely that Sneaky Weasel. Yeah. I do recall that one specifically, and it was just a harsh bite that I didn't enjoy.
Yeah.
The iceberg beer, it just more surprised me. It's not anywhere near the top. It just was really surprising for what it was, but I'm thoroughly enjoying this porter right now.
Kelly's asking how your liver is.
This year's not bad. I only had one day. I actually did pretty well. Usually I fall behind so badly I have to have many in one day. But like one year, it was 2 beer calendars and a Scotch one. And there was at least one Saturday with 8 Scotches. But so this is pretty easy, all things considered.
Yeah.
But porter's up there. I actually enjoyed the cranberry orange wheat ale. Granville, I think.
Yeah.
But I'm a fan of wheat.
The Granville beer was fairly contentious, I think, because I think people hated it or really liked it.
Yeah, I could see that, because it is any strong flavors is going to either like or not. I'm good with most anything, as we've heard. I'm not the biggest on the IPAs, but there were the couple IPAs that were there, actually. I was quite pleasantly surprised.
White Raven is very
weren't
good.
So happy.
White Raven's a very good beer.
Yeah, they were all damn good, really, except The Sneaky Weasel's the only one that really sticks out as I would not try it again.
That's fair. Yeah, I got a few for sure, but so I never said the Sneaky Weasel was bad. That cherry lager was awful. I didn't like
that, and I want to try it.
I didn't like the Radler at all either. So
there was a Radler.
Yeah, and we'll finish off Justin. Well, how about your?
Yeah, my top three is I'll say this is now right up there. That's over that one right now. The one from Japan, or the Japan Ale. I did like that the Glacier one, the iceberg one. I hadn't had that before. I didn't really know what to expect at all. So that was kind of just a new. Oh, this is interesting, right? I actually did like the cranberry orange. I was on the side of right in that one. I thought that was quite good. And then I would say the one that I definitely distinctly remember disliking the most exponentially was the vanilla blueberry. That was a sip, and I went, yeah, no.
Yeah.
So that one definitely struck. There was a sour we had as well, I think. A couple of them. Am I right? There was a sour too that just struck out for me as well. That didn't land the same way I wanted it to, and that also may have been the season. We had a sour, did we not?
Well, so yeah, I mean, people underestimate how much seasons and time of day and day of the week matter.
That's true
in your beer. So, Kyle, who's in chat again, we mentioned him. So his favorites are the Old Beautiful. So that was Yokami Kasu because delicious. Stronghold Spirit Bear, which is amazing beer for such a small brewery in the middle of nowhere. Who they're fairly new. They make really good, because they're really new. They're only 2 years old, I think. They make some really stellar beer. Yeah, I think they just need if they can get, it'll have to be all post-COVID, right? If they can get salesmen or people doing tastings at shows or something, I think they could really break out because their beer is very, very good. And then also the Annex beer, he says. So I'm going to assume that's King's Ale. But the Golden Authority was also super delicious.
Yeah, we had two. Was Annex we had two from. Was there anything else we had two? We had two from
Analog.
Sorry, Analog
as well.
Do we not have another one? Another one from sure. Look at the same folks that did the Orange Cranberry.
That was Granville Island. No, I think that was the only one. Yeah,
there's only one. Two. Okay.
Yeah. So no doubles. I think we've only ever once had doubles in all the years because Curtis has been doing it. And Derek, have you been on since day one? Yes, you have, because you definitely contribute some of the more interesting beers. It came up in my memories a few days ago, your infamous Black Ice choice.
Yes. So back then, of course, there was fewer people in the calendar. So I think at that point in time, everybody go out and buy one really good one and then a crank one, just something terrible. So I dialed in a Black Ice.
That's right. When there were 6 of us, you had 4 choices. So we do 4 6-packs instead of 2.
Oh, yeah, that's right. There, you bought 4. That's right. So
So once a week, there's definitely a joke beer of some sort. Because my joke beer one year was like a hemp ale, which actually turned out not bad.
I did just peanut butter and jelly.
Oh yeah, I remember that one, and I recall one time because again, I hate chocolate oranges. Those chocolate oranges. And there was that one that was that chocolate orange beer, and I was just like, it was just.
I think I did that one too.
Well, you should be ashamed of yourself. No, just joking. I'm just kidding.
I will try the weirdest thing on a food menu. I will grab the weirdest thing on a beer menu.
That's funny. This year was very good. There's some stinkers, but there always is. But I think when you have 12 people, when you have 2 choices with 12 of us, you're definitely limited in your selection. So do you want to waste your money? Necessarily, right? Because I don't think anybody bought a beer to there's no gotcha beers, there's no weird chili beers, spicy beers, even the Sneaky Weasel. I'm sure when they went in, they got it. So I think that was Jonathan's pick. I think so because we have a few. Jonathan, this is Jonathan's first year. This is Justin's first year.
I think it was great. And even though we're kind of hammering a little bit on the Sneaky Weasel one, it still is a great pick, right? It was still.
It's still better than Black Ice.
Fair enough. And that orange chocolate one.
Well, now I'm gonna have to look back because my memories in December. So when my Facebook memories show up, it's interesting because it's always like the Advent beers from the previous 4 or 5 years, right? So when I was doing two a year, I don't know how I was doing it because some days it was like a pine needle IPA and then some kind of weird white chocolate porter.
Yeah.
The same day. Awful. You can't really reconcile that.
Yeah, and that's a good call that you made earlier too, Wally, with like depending on the time of the day as well.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like mine was typically, you know, after work, after dinner, kind of sitting around at like 7 or 8 o'clock at night after the kids that kind of head off to bed, then I have a pint, right? So it was very much dependent on kind of, you know, a little bit of the meal you had as well, how that paired. Like there's a lot of stuff kind of.
Yep. For example, a really hoppy beer, you almost got to be prepared for it.
Yep.
You know that it's coming, right? Like you don't want an empty belly on really hoppy food. But like this beer, it fell in perfect. I had a little nap right before this, and then so this was like a good like wake up beer. There's like some coffee flavors in it. It was good. Callie asking if you had to pick a joke or weird beer right now, what would you pick? Jeez.
You know what?
Black ice. No, just joking.
Black ice.
I'm actually going to go grab one of those that is in from my other calendar.
Are you black ice? A joke beer?
No, I have something different, but I'll be right back.
I will give you the one that I would have right now, and I don't know if it'd be a joke beer. So on one of the reasons that I may be a couple beer behind is that on Tuesday I got invited to a holiday beer tasting. A virtual Christmas holiday beer tasting. So 4 cans showed up at my house on Tuesday night. We all sat around a Zoom call and had a drink. But I had cherry pie from known as a place called The Brewery in California, and it was known as The Bakery. And it is 10.2% alcohol. And I will tell you that it is a beer that if we were all together, we would split 1 can. And it would be a little bit of a finisher for your night, and there was no reason that you should be drinking a full can of that because that was not going to end well for sure.
Being that it's Christmas Eve, and one thing that I saw it in a flyer, and I was going to go pick up a 4-pack of it, and I couldn't find it when I got to the liquor store. There was an eggnog white stout somebody put out.
Man,
I saw that one too.
And I went to the liquor store and they didn't have any left. And I was kind of like, that would have been a nice, I don't know about a joke beer, but that would have been something that would have been great to throw in the calendar for a night like tonight.
Yeah.
I know Kyle had talked about throwing a White Claw in.
Nice.
So that would have been a fun pick. I would have done something really out there, like a barley wine or something.
Oh my, yeah.
Something that people just don't drink really, because barley wines are like a weird fad, kind of, right? Because they're just like super heavy duty beer. It's 15% beer.
Yeah.
So it's just a weird fad, and we've seen different beers in the past be like that. Like when they were doing all those weird creamsicle milkshake beers for a while. This is weird fad that caught on for a minute, and I would have done something like that. I really wish I would have got like a lambic or something. So I went out and got fairly standard beers like this one and the IPA, but it would have been fun, to go out and get like a lambic or like some kind of European sour, German sour, maybe like a Weiss or something. Just something really kind of out on the spectrum. That would have been fun.
You know,
or like go to the liquor store and go, I need 12 of beer. Don't tell me what you're getting.
Just put them in a brown paper bag.
Yeah, Luckies.
That's right.
Because they always have stacks of 1,000 cases of Lucky.
Wow.
One I wanted to do 1 year previously, but they just didn't have enough, was a Boxer watermelon ale.
Oh, have we had a Boxer in these advent calendars? I want to say we have.
I think we had just a basic Boxer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's been watermelon or anything fancy.
I actually enjoyed the watermelon ale, believe it or not. But like I said, I like some weird ass flavors, but when it comes to joke
sits
beer,
in that weird like that weird thing of you're kind of embarrassed to tell people you drink it, like Mike's Hard Lemonade or like hard iced teas or Palm Bays where you don't tell people you drink them, but you will.
Oh, I tell people I drink.
Like the flavored boxers sit in that category, right? Because Minhas is technically a craft brewery.
More like a contract brewer.
Yeah. So because it's Albertan too, which is kind of cool.
Well, I threw one in there from Minhas one year, was some wheat beer.
Yeah.
That everybody actually enjoyed. They first saw us like Minhas. Yeah.
Well, don't they do, like, aren't they the ones that do those dragon IPAs and stuff? Am I thinking?
Well, so she was on one of the owners. She was on Dragon's Den.
Okay.
So they did like the branded kind of beer.
Okay, maybe that's what I was thinking. I'm sure I've had some and they weren't terrible.
Callie saying Curtis is a shareholder in Boxer Hard Root Beer Stocks.
I love root beer, so yeah, add booze to it.
I love root beer too.
That's my go-to in the summer, and I'm not ashamed to admit it.
No, I'll drink it. I drink a lot of Palm Bays and a lot of like hard iced teas. Troubled Monk makes an awesome hard iced tea because it's not one of those hard iced teas that you have a headache after you have a few. It doesn't have all the weird chemicals. It's literally just like 6 ingredients and you're done.
They make a great root beer too, though.
Yes,
like their root beer, their normal root beer. I got a 15-year-old that loves that stuff. Crushes it like crazy.
Nice.
Yeah.
In this calendar, we've had 2 Annex. Annex makes really good craft soda.
Okay.
They make great soda and a fantastic root beer.
Yeah, they're usually the ones, if you have non-alcoholic stuff on tap at any other tap room, it's Annex.
Yeah,
Really?
Yeah, the root beer.
Even here at Spectrum Ale Works in Lethbridge, they have.
They're Calgary-based, aren't they? Yeah, they are.
Yep.
Yep.
Well, I was going to ask you about that, or maybe a bit of a commentary. Of the 24 cans, a lot are local, right? Local-ish to Alberta. We got some into British Columbia, some in Saskatchewan. You know, what do you think that says about maybe the brewery scene currently, or the microbrew scene, or maybe the participant selection, or is there anything to read into that, or just sure look at we're avoiding Molson and Kokanee?
I think that's a big avoidance. Is first and foremost we're in Alberta, so you're going to find more Alberta beer than anything.
Yeah.
And a lot of people did go out of their way to get local beers. Like I knew this Medicine Hat beer. I was sitting with the rep one day, and she said it was coming out, so I kind of waited for it. Curtis waited for Spirit Bear. Dylan waited for the Ribstone Imperial Ale. So local breweries that we know had small batch stuff. And I think it's just more available sometimes, and then a lot of it is sometimes the non-Albertan local beer that we don't know is just it's so foreign to us that we're just not maybe. Especially with only 2 selections, are you going to take a risk on something from Ontario or the States that you don't know really? Mm-hmm. Right. So that might have played some into it. Mm-hmm. I was thinking about going out there and just finding like Cigar City because it's kind of widely available here in town. They're from Florida, or Collective Arts. You know, get something kind of off in the distance. But to be fair, those beers are like a couple dollars a can more than Alberta beer. Yeah. So that also starts adding up. So you're going to pay another $50 for beer just to get beer from somewhere else, right? You're buying 24 craft beer. It's already $3 or $4 a bottle usually per can, right? So
yeah, like employee-wise, Alberta is now employing like over 3,000 people just in breweries and stuff, and they have like 120 plus breweries in Alberta. Where back in, what am I reading here, from 2013, there was only 13 of them. So it's they're readily available, and there's just so many from Alberta we haven't even had a chance to try yet because they just keep popping up.
And I think Wally, you and I had met with the folks from Ribstone, right? Yeah, right. And they mentioned they had opened in 2012. They had mentioned that when they had went actually to the liquor licensing to get their documents, their document is number 12.
Number 12, yeah.
As in it was the 12th one issued in the entire province.
Yeah.
And then you're reading the stats now of how many of these breweries have kicked up, right? So over the last 10 years, just that entire scene has exponentially grown, right? So
there's a very distinct reason for that. So before 2000, when did Cooley Brew open? 2012, 2013?
15, I think, wasn't it?
15? Yeah.
They
Yeah.
were happening theoretically, right?
Well, no, Cooley Brew opened, 2015. I don't know the exact year, but the year they broke ground, they changed the law. So if you look at old breweries, say Cooley Brew and older, so Ribstone, Alley Cat, Big Rock, Cooley Brew, Canmore Brewing, they're all big breweries because laws were different back then. You had to be able to produce a certain amount of hectoliters to be allowed to open. Then they changed that, and all of a sudden you're allowed to have nano breweries. You'd have Dandy opened they were like in a shed basically when they opened. Theoretically, it's a tiny little place. Spectrum. There's lots of tiny places because now they've changed that requirement about how now you can just, as long as they'll give you a license, you can brew as much or little as you want, right? So that was a big part of it. Is all of a sudden all these guys who are home brewing could go do it. They could just go find a warehouse and make 100 hectoliters a month for all they cared, right? So Cooley Brew that's why they're so big, is because they had to be that big. That was kind of like the minimum they were allowed to be.
Yeah, and it's interesting, right? Because that's kind of a reversed problem, right? You to be able to do this, you have to be so big. Yes. Right. Where the opposite way right now is you can start grassroots and grow to be bigger, right? And have that level of success. Yeah. Right. And I think, Tool Shed is a prime example of that up in the Calgary area, right? Literally started as a very small nano brew and then has kind of blew out from there. Whereas, Cooley has to be this big and try and be successful and just can collapse on itself, unfortunately.
So Cooley Brew contract brewed until they shut down. They were contract brewing. So New Arrow was made out of there. I think Field and Forge was making stuff out of there. Exhale, there's a bunch. And then when Cooley shut down, Field and Forge opened a brewery. Now they contract brew everything. Evil Corp, everybody was kind of out of there. And the other thing is Tool Shed's an interesting story because of the old laws. They used to brew out of BC and bring it into Alberta.
Oh, really?
They were just across the border. And because the laws are so different, that's why you're seeing so behind. Because you look at Ontario and BC and you're like, oh man, Granville's been around forever. To be fair, they're made out of like the Molson factory. So, but everybody seems so robust compared to ours. And I mean, Saskatchewan, Manitoba are kind of in the same boat. And they're even smaller, but that's why it seems to be this explosion. So many people have been waiting for this to happen that they could go do it. And now what you're doing is with the Olds program, just pumping out brewers, is you have people working at breweries. For instance, Piston broke in Brooks. She worked at the head brewer there, worked at Hell's Basement and worked at Yukon Brewing, and then bought into this brewery. So OT Brewing, same thing, right? You just have all these people who are brewers becoming brewery owners. Right? Big Rock has, I bet you 3 or 4 or 5 owners in Alberta have went through Big Rock.
Wow,
for sure.
Right. So you have and then those are also all the companies that are kind of like, if you look at, I'll say, no, Ribstone's not even an exception. If you look at all the guys that from say 2013, when there was only 13, they're all like the intro breweries, for lack of a better term. They make their beer fairly baseline. So their market beer, even Tool Shed's market beer, Red Rage, Star Cheek, it's fairly entry beer for beer drinkers because that kind of beer is just easier to make when you have to make 1 million liters or whatever.
You're also trying to sell it though, too, right? Yeah. So it's not just the sake of making it like art, right?
But now you have Calgary with 40 breweries.
That's insane.
And 20 or 30 more licenses still, like, that haven't opened.
Which you think about it, it's great because, like you said, the Alberta scene has taken off, and there's some really great beer. We're drinking some of it tonight, but there is sure a lot of ho-hum beer out there.
Well, that's the thing is
it needs to be called a little bit. So, yeah.
but again, you need the ho-hum intro beer to make the other breweries really function, I guess. You need
That's
people to start drinking craft beer. So you need Alley Cat to make SYC run, or you need or Analog, right? Because Analog's a tiny brewery.
No, that's
Right?
true. Yep.
Yeah, there's the right level of competition in the market, right? We do need that, right? But then the other challenge of it is the dilution of the market,
Yeah.
right? And when you have so many players in it, it can become diluted, and if it becomes diluted, ultimately you can have a crash, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
we
that's
have 100 breweries and we're only making $10, right? Or we have 10 breweries, we're making $100, we can be successful and survive, right? So it's such a kind of, I think, on a razor's edge,
Mhm.
right? And probably some of these rules and changes in the regulations created that beast, but ultimately, again, competition and the market will figure itself out, and the strongest survives, and ultimately gets bought up by some, Molson or whoever, and all of a sudden now they're being brewed out of that place, and
then the quality drops, and then hopefully something else takes in.
There are more breweries in Alberta that, like, you won't even suspect that. Like Wild Rose is owned by Sapporo, right? Molson or Labatt or somebody owns Born, Colorado, or not Born, Colorado. The other one around there. Anyway, they just recently got bought, right? And there was a huge who done it over that, because all of a sudden now you have breweries owned by big companies.
Mhm.
Are they microbrew anymore? Because they're just getting fed millions of dollars. Canyon lines probably being built for them. So they don't unnecessarily, they started with a struggle. So I think they get villainized unfairly sometimes. These guys still struggled.
Yeah.
Oh, for
And any of
sure.
us who own businesses would be like, somebody came and was like, here's millions of dollars. Work for us for 5 years and then go off, right? No competition clause. Like, okay. Like, people aren't going to say no, right? They still had to work to get to that point, and they sell, and that's fine, right?
Yeah.
But like you said, there's always somebody to step in place. What we have in Alberta is this preponderance of like neighborhood breweries
Mhm.
that are not canning.
Mhm.
There's 120 or something in Alberta right now, like breweries operating. I couldn't name them, not a chance. I couldn't name half of them, I don't think, because they don't can.
Well, we probably had 20 of them
Yeah. Yeah.
this
But
month.
like, even Lethbridge, Spectrum wasn't going to can.
Right.
They had no plans to can at all, and then everything happened. So they had this big place making beer. They had to get it to the public, right? There's tons of those places that are still not canning.
Stronghold was the same. Like, we talk about saturation and competition. Like, I'm from the small town Fort McLeod. There's not a bar I'd bring people to. Not prior to Stronghold. It's a lot of the small communities is actually finding a decent place to drink decent beer, and with a lot of it have decent food.
Mhm.
You're talking like just in Fort McLeod here, Stronghold, they weren't planning on canning originally, but they grew to the point in popularity. Out in Lumbrick, it's also they serve some damn good food out there.
Yeah.
It's more having. Yeah, they have two now.
Yeah, they have Old Man River, and they have the Pass, which is right in one of the towns.
That's out in Blairmore, right? So you
Yeah,
got Lumbrick's got the Old Man, and then out in the Pass you've got Pass Beer Co. And I don't think they're canning.
No.
But it's funny. I'm from there, so I go out to the Pass quite often, and so I took some growlers down there. I take them down there all the time just to get them filled, and it was surprising, the lineup. Because again, being from the Pass, when I was growing up there, it would be much like from Fort McLeod or from Brooks. Everybody drinks Canadian Coors. It was good. It was good to see that many people standing in line to fill their growlers.
Well, there's something about the support of the local, right?
Yep.
There's a local pride. We were talking again. We go back to that Ribstone commentary. What were they saying? Like the population was is 400 people on a good day, right? Depending on who's coming and going. And they said of population, 80 people stepped forward and gave money to create this brewery, right? Mm-hmm. So you're telling me 20% of your population are like, yeah, sure, look it, we're behind this thing, right? So there is this kind of the local pride, right? There's a local, this is where I'm from, this is who we support. Screw you, Molson, you go sit over there, right? We're gonna have your man's local pale ale or whatever it is, and I don't need your drink, your horrible beer. So
Yeah, so I'm from Brooks. Again, it's a bit bigger town, but it's still fairly bodunk, for lack of a better term. Piston Broke, they have 2 breweries. One's really bad. Piston Broke is an amazing brewery. Great food. Packed every time I go in. But they're also on tap in every place in town. In Boston Pizza, in Montana's. Like, anywhere that has beer has them on tap. And I'm sure Ribstone only has one other place, like one hotel.
Yeah.
But every small town around there is going to have one tap, right? So we got a whole bunch of questions that I've been ignoring. Asking, what's the coolest named beer that turned out to be horrible?
Oh.
Ooh.
In the, I assume in the calendar.
The blueberry one was called Babe.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I know, Coach, that was yours. I keep going back, but blueberry was really bad.
Yeah, it wasn't good. I'm okay with that. I had never had it before I purchased it for this calendar.
So the coolest name was There Will Be Blood Orange.
Yeah,
that's fair.
I thought that was a great name. I was like, yeah, I like this.
Yeah.
No, so bad.
I'm gonna say just cool names. I thought the Castlevania
Nipa.
Yeah, Nipa. I thought was a good
name.
It wasn't a bad beer, but it was just a really clever play.
Kelly asking, guys, if you would brew your own custom beer, what flavors and style would you pick? Well, what style would I pick? I'd probably pick like an IPA, almost for sure. And it'd be kumquat as the flavor. That way I could have Disco Soleil every day.
Nice.
Just
going to say a Sculpin clone.
Yep. Yeah. Like the Sculpins. That's the thing is you're just cloning other. You're going to clone your favorite beer. Let's be fair, right? Beer Native is in chat. He's just saying hello and nice sweater. Thank you, Steve. I was on Steve's show this morning. It was fun. He was a very cool advent calendar. What else? Blah, 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 blah. New Era was another beer I dunked on because I didn't care for it. Yeah. Michelle homebrews and she made a lavender ginger saison. Interesting.
And that's a great question, maybe Wally or anyone on this call. Have any of you kind of jumped into the homebrew? Like, have you been starting your own? Coach, no. Wally, no. Curtis,
zero interest.
I did the beer homebrew quite a few years ago. I just don't drink enough.
Yeah.
Beside me, this is actually wine. I brew for other people. I don't drink wine, but I make it.
Okay. Kelly makes wine and she'll make kombucha, and it's come up in conversation, but I would rather just go drink good beer instead.
Yeah.
I'm not going to make anything better than I can
purchase.
I can buy, especially with the amount of effort I'd have to put in to learn the science and chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
You can get beer kits.
When I was in university, my friend and I built a still in his basement and made some moonshine. And it was terrible. So that was my attempt at brewing or distilling. Never again.
Mm-hmm.
No, never. I guess I skipped Curtis and Justin. We just went off on tangent about custom beer. So if you're going to make a beer, you have all the skills and tools, I guess it would be, right?
Well, I guess I'll go because I'm drinking one of my joke beers that was in my other kit, but it was an accompaniment one. It's literally ultra and smoked oysters.
Oh my!
I love smoked oysters. I get them every year. And my mom is the one who puts together my other calendar. She's awesome. But a dunkel with a little bit of smoked oyster.
Huh?
Okay, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's fair. So it'd be like salty, briny, smoky. Yeah, that would be. And dunkel's a good body for it too.
Oh, I love dunkels. That's probably my favorite style.
Fair enough.
Okay, I think we are cut up. Cool, guys. We've went over an hour. I did not expect it to be this long necessarily. Steve over in the UK is just shaking his head at these super long shows. We went half an hour this morning. He was just like, I could tell he was just stressed. So, that was fun. I'm gonna do another beer. I'll do another wrap up show on my own, talking about all the beers we drank today. For all you just tuned in now, maybe it was Medicine Hat's Black Forest Porter for day 24 of the Fermented Fred's Advent Calendar. We should do this again next year, guys. That was fun.
That was great.
Oh, always up for it every year, Wally.
Yeah. Thanks, Wally, thanks for having me. I appreciate it this year. It was absolutely blast.
It was
I had a great time.
Curtis or Russell mentioned it, so I was like, "And your craft beer and your picks were good," and because last year was, I'm not going to offend you, but we had a lot of like not really craft beer drinkers in the calendar. I think they just joined for the fun of it.
Yeah,
and so some of the beers are a bit more. The calendar's a bit more plain, I guess. People didn't go out there too far. There's a few of us, of course, who always like, let's get the highest IBU beer we can get or whatever, right? So that was fun.
Yeah.
All that said, any last parting thoughts before we head off for Christmas Eve? I'm gonna have a bite to eat, and then we're gonna go look at Christmas lights.
Nice.
There you go.
Yeah. No, my only final thoughts here is just, Wally, thanks so much for organizing. It was absolute great fun, great crack. Thanks for the drinks. Curtis, Coach, thanks for participating in it as well. It was a lot of fun, and it was always nice to meet people in the Facebook chat and kind of engage in that community. And looking forward to next year as well.
All right. I don't know why we always do it at Christmas. Why isn't there an Advent beer calendar in like July?
You can do it. Why not?
Perhaps we should have one. Why not?
Why not?
Seasonal would be great.
Yeah, just
your Advent calendar,
like the summer series.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Labor Day.
I'm in.
Why not? Yeah.
We could just do 12 days because then we could just pick like a case and we're done. Right?
That's a smart.
Oh my!
12 days of halfway to Christmas.
Yeah, I like it.
I'm in.
Well, if they can have whatever Boxing Day sales in the middle of the summer, why not?
Why not?
Yeah.
I was trying to think, how many years have we been doing this?
Is this 5 years?
I want to say 5. Yeah. And I think it all started because we all did the craft beer advent calendar, and that year just sucked so bad.
Yeah.
We're like,
I
we
think
can
we all
do better
picked
than
up the
this.
same one.
Yeah, we all had the same one. It was the craft beer advent calendar.
It is funny though that we talk about those joke beers though, and you don't have that, like you said, 1 in 4 beers being something that's just like, oh God, why did you buy this?
Yeah.
Granted, I maybe got that out of the Babe one, to the blueberry. Maybe you guys are still, God, why did you buy this?
I enjoyed it. So.
Okay, I'm getting railed here before we go, Justin.
Yeah.
What's your favorite style of beer? Because you didn't.
I'm gonna say lager, a good lager, and a good IPA are my favorite. I will also say a cider, a good cider. So
Really?
so for over in Ireland, Bulmers, or as we would know it here over in the North Americas, Magners.
Okay.
Right, those would be my my three favorites.
I've never met a cider that blew me away. Actually, still.
I'd take a cider in the summer, even though I don't really like ciders, but
I'll
better
still
in the summer.
drink them for sure. Like
it was in Ireland that was like the beer. That was the summer beer. Everyone had it. It was you get just big bottles of it. It was on every single tap, and it came out gold and orange. And it was absolutely brilliant.
Is Guinness as ever present as like we pretend it is? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, yeah, well, to a point there that they actually have Guinness QA teams that have their own vans that roll around to the pubs, and they'll go in and they'll be like, "Yeah, I'm here with the Guinness QA team, and you need to see a pour. Let's see what you got." Right. And so they're very stringent on their QA and where it's represented, and yeah. So yeah, like on every tap is in every pub there'd be Guinness, there'd be Bulmers. Then you'd have Heineken. Heineken was really big over there.
Okay.
And then you'd have like a Budweiser tap because Americans would be there.
Yeah.
And then you'd have a couple maybe locals on the tap as well. But Guinness was, that was.
It's funny between Heineken, Guinness, and Stella. Those are just I hate all 3 of them. I shouldn't say hate. I don't enjoy them.
Pretty much there as well.
Enjoy them. I cannot enjoy them.
Guinness
Never enjoyed them.
It must be different because here it's just flavorless.
Yeah, there I will definitely say, having lived there for the 2.5 years, having Guinness at the pubs there, or even at the actual Guinness factory, right? Like it's like, and I think you made a comment before, like it's the water, right? It's the water they use. It's those components. When it's brewed in North America, they're using different water. It tastes different. But yeah, like straight Guinness from Ireland is amazing. Where Guinness here is like, that's okay.
Yeah.
That's giving it a glowing review, in my opinion.
Right.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. I think with that, we'll ease off. So for Justin, for Derek, and for Curtis, and for all the Fermented nerds, thank you for tuning in for 24 days in a row. I'm kind of like happy and sad it's over because I don't have to sit in front of my computer every day and drink a beer.
But you can.
For fun. I probably will. But
there you go.
I think I'm going to take the rest of the year off. I have some tape. I'll put them up.
There you are.
I need to edit one for tomorrow. I drank before we go. I'm going to put one up on Christmas Day. Like I'll put it up tonight. But it's a gold frankincense and myrrh innocent gun.
Oh my!
Wow.
So it was really interesting. So if you need something to watch while you're digesting turkey, tune in. I'll hopefully get that up today sometime. All that said, this was day 24. Merry Christmas to all our viewers. And with that, we are all out of here.
Bye-bye.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas.